Here we are in Lightworks, and for those just starting out, one of the things you're going to have to make a decision on is what kind of layout do you want. This is a flexible layout, so go up to your cog and then set your layout type, flex or fixed. And for this, we're going to bring up an old project, actually, since I've got that drive set up. We'll go in there, and it is T1. Now, this shows me the video source or clips and then the video project. Since I want to bring in a project, we'll do a road trip, and let's bring in that Florida trip, Lake 9. And I'm going into the backup folder. Lightworks takes a little bit of time, and we'll probably pause it. And the import is done. So I did import the leg 9 of the Florida 2020 trip. And you can see right here, the first thing is the rooms. We'll go into the edit room. And each one of these rooms will be set up as I left it. And it looks like there's no difference. So, which is a nice feature of the edits. But you can see in the clips that here's the file name. And another nice thing that Lightworks lets you do is set up different columns. So you can set up the columns that you like. And one of the things I started using later on were the proxies. But so that's how easily you can do it. Just go in and click them, and you can sort them this way. So these are all the clips, front, rear, front, rear. You can set these up in bins, front, rear if you want, or however you want to do that. I did start out setting up sequences in the bins, and then just ended up doing like a master sequence and found that to be just as easy. But this will be the names, and then the real ID, which I don't use because I don't really do that much in terms of different media, but that is the actual name of the, and that's over here, and you can just slide them over. So you can see those are identical, but if I wanted to change a name, I could do that, just call it that, and now it's got that name. So that, I'm going to change back. But that's a nice feature with the names, that you can name it whatever you want to. So, but by default, it'll use the real ID name. But this is the nomenclature that I try to stick with and modify as little as possible in terms of the project, or from the source to the project. It's got the date and a timestamp, and that's pretty much what I use throughout my editing process, and until maybe it gets to the final cut and you put it out there. Maybe you'd want to give it a little less geekish name. So this is how that sets up. That's about all I wanted to show you here. But yeah, and the same goes with the sequences. They'll get the same nomenclature, and it'll help me to know what's in this sequence just by the name. So I can see here the date and the time, and that's about all I need to know. I can throw a little tag on it if I want to help me understand. But you want to use your notes and description, and put as much information as you can as you go along, whether you're cueing it and really doing some detail work in your editing. You can also import cues from your library from project to project to project, which is helpful if you get cue markers that you use over and over. So let's see. I'll show you that too. So if I wanted to, like this one doesn't have it, I could get into here and I could say customize metadata and cue markers, and I could say add. Oh, how come it's not doing it? It says, copy from a project. So the only one that I've got them in is the library. So I would just copy those all in and be done with that. Now, they weren't in there now or before, but they are now. So here's all those ones that were copied in there. So I might want to cue mark weather, landmark, what kind of action, condition, road conditions, logistics, and what I'm doing editing wise. Over and over, I use the same ones. And so it's kind of nice there. And that's usually when I'm doing a preview, I'll want to get into that, which I'm kind of surprised is not in I don't have a preview room. Let's see. Yeah, I don't. So anyways, I wonder if I have those cue markers. That was a bad one. Yeah, so these are the cue markers are not loaded in to this particular project. I didn't have them set up at that point. But this is an example of a road trip where I'm just using a couple DVEs for the front and the rear, and we're moving along in the video. And I think eventually it gets to, yeah, there's a little bit of snowfall coming. And as the front camera gets blurred out with the snow landing on it, then I just move into the rear camera. The DVEs are an excellent object tool in Lightworks, and we'll get into a little bit of that in another project. So let's do that. Oh, I wanted to show, let me show you. So like if I switch rooms, if I want to go to closing, my closing stuff will be in here, which usually isn't much of anything because I'm just exporting. But now if I want to get into editing, this will stay that way as I left it. So it's kind of nice. Another habit that I find is helpful is to always get that playhead back to the start position on anything and everything. So unless you're trying to mark something in the tile, but that is that. Let's get into a smaller project that makes a little more sense. This is my template for my newer 4K stuff. And I guess what I'd like to show here is just the whole shoot and match in terms of the effects, the mixer, and what's going on. So in this, I've changed the names around because this is a template. So that's just to help me understand a little bit better about the template. And we could actually roll this a little bit and see. This is a motorcycle simulation screen that I'm setting up in Lightworks to run Dashcam captured video through, just to process it in sort of a standardized means. The tracks are a couple of FXs, 3 or 4 videos, maybe 3 or 4 audios. We're going to have a call come in. We'll answer that. We'll enter into a dialogue. and then hang up and return to the GPS map. I'll get into a little bit of the detail about how I set up the GPS map and whatnot in the Lightworks triple DVEs, and our call's coming up. So we will enter into that. And here it is. Here's the call. And we're going to think about it a little bit too long, I think. That should be a little bit shorter in time length, but I think I'm going to answer it. Hello, caller. Yeah, I've done that in Lightworks. I see that you've got the DVE flop in the rear view mirror. That's good. You can also use your dash camera DVR setting to mirror, so you don't really need the flop, but that's totally up to you. That will be the way that your footage is, your source footage. So once you make that call, you're stuck with it, just like when you burn in the GPS stuff, which, by the way, you can change that in your DVR2 settings. So that's a good thing. Anyways, not much else I can tell you about this other than you'll want to set up your FX main track with the DVEs all at once and then chop it later. So anyways, adios, amigo. Yeah, and that caller was correct too. So good advice from the caller, and you'll want to learn something about routing up here in your DVEs, and you'll see that routing changes as your tracks change, as the content in the tracks change. So that's why the caller was saying set it up in the beginning as broadly as you can, and then it'll be consistent throughout the sequence, and you can make modifications, but you won't be having to go back and tweak every value to bring it back into a consistency. So that's why it's good to set it up in the beginning and then go back in and cut it up. So there might be reasons for not doing that, but that's my reasons for doing it. It's just less time. The routing is amazing. This effects menu and interface is fantastic stuff. And the more you get into it, the more you're going to want to get into it. I think it's sort of set up like all the video audio is a bunch of stuff can come in, but only one thing can go out. And so you got to figure out how you want it to go out, and what is the master, what is the slave, and that type of hierarchical. And I think down here, like you'll see, is the V1 is the rear camera. That is working through the flop. That is working through the mirror. That's up here in the upper left. And then that triple DVE has another triple DVE as input, and it has video source, both the front camera, which is main screen, and the map. And then it also has image with the caller, and the GPS then will work like you'll see here. The GPS is now in that DVE. The map is in there now. So it's kind of nice in that way that I can change out the smartphone screen, because those are just screen captures on the smartphone and saved. And so they're consistent. I can just swap them out. And let's see, I'll show you how to do that. I'll go in here on the settings, and you're going to have to pay attention to these tabs up here. So that's FX1, FX2, and the audio, which is running the loudness curve. But anyways, in this image, I can make it change to that, which is the Scenic Moto navigation app. That's a cool app too, if you're interested in it. But so if I want to look at that or use that in the video, I can just swap it out, and I'll bring it back to accepted spam. I think that's what it was. Okay, so now it's back to that. And so that's a reason for setting up a template, a boilerplate, a jig for consistency's sake and efficiency's sake. And you can also save your sound configuration, your audio configuration, and load it back up and keep using it. And you're going to want to do that so that you have consistent audio throughout your series. I don't know what else. Let's see, the thing up here, it'll be the viewing LUT. It's using the progressive warm sky. And you can see in real time when you change this, should come out. You should see a change on the tile. Let's see if we can bring that about. We'll do warm sky. Yeah, so you can see that in real time, how that LUT is affecting it. And I would recommend with the dash cam or action cams that you find a LUT and use it, because even though you might think it's like great footage, the LUTs will make it look just a little bit better, and that's what it's all about. A lot of this stuff is just like incremental things. So that, use your LUT, set up your DVEs and set up your tracks. Use your track add multiple. That is going to give you the most control on where they insert, and it's also not going to screw up your effects routing if you just start piling in tracks. And so use that. If you do want to change speeds on your footage, you do that here, and you really have to do this one at a time on each one. You don't want to do it down here and just change the speed here, because I'm not sure, it doesn't work. It does something, but it doesn't come out like you think it's going to. So you can't change the speed on an entire track. You have to do it tile by tile, and it's a little bit time consuming, and that's why the larger size footage you can capture, the better it is. So if you can go 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know, do that on your video capture system, because it makes it easier at this end. So then you'll export here, and it'll give you the ability to select what you're going to export, and there's only one sequence here, and then it'll go into like where do you want it to go, and so you'll go into your project area. But since this is actually in my library, it's not, I don't consider it a project. It's actually stored in my library. But always back up, and so whenever I do an export, I'll throw in a backup just as a matter of practice, because typically I'm not really staying focused on the video being exported, and there'll be a little bit of time afterwards, and it'll just it'll just follow into the archiving or the backup automatically. So it's just kind of a good habit. Um, that's kind of it for starters. I guess I don't know what else to tell you. The new version of Lightworks, it makes it easier because frame rates don't have to be uh, so the same, and so it does a really good job of figuring out how to output your final cut with different frame rates. But it still can cause problems, especially with the DVEs. Be aware of the frames per second going into that, or the resolution going into that of the different tracks. It may affect how your DVEs respond when they're nested. So good luck. I hope this helped you a little bit get started. It's a lot of fun, and hope to see what you're doing and with your action or dash cam